Hi, I'm Bart Hanson. I'm the owner and lead instructor for CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record live at 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday. If you enjoy this video, hit that like button, and if you want to submit to be on the show, take a look at the information in the description.
I have a 5-5 hand. I'm 800 effective with the villain.
Okay. 800 effective?
I've actually never played. This was like pre-quarantine, like 2 or 3 days before. So, ironically, a lot of new players were kind of coming in. I don't know if they were trying to get their fix before it closed down or anything, but I've never played with this guy before. He seemed just like a kind of tighter recreational player. Wasn't getting too out of line. He was up probably like 500 or 600 on the session. He covered me, and we didn't have much history at all. But I have King 10 of clubs.
Okay.
And I'm in the hijack. It folds to me. I raise to 20. The button calls.
Yep.
Another recreational on the button calls, and the villain and the small blind calls.
Small blind calls. Okay.
Yep, and the villain's in the small blind, so we're 3 ways to the flop. I have King 10 of clubs.
Yep.
The flop comes 8 of clubs, 3 of clubs, deuce of spades.
Deuce of spades. 8 of clubs, 3 of clubs, deuce of spades.
Yep.
By the way, hold on 1 second here. Did I go in the wrong order? I had just emailed you, right? Is this Lex?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, I guess I must have. Sorry about that. I went in the. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. I'm tripping. I'm crazy. I just got off on the time. All right. So 8 of clubs, 3 of clubs, deuce of spades. So you flop 2 overcards and a flush draw, right?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Pot's like $60 or 55 after the drop.
Yeah. So then, this is a pretty odd hand. Like, it doesn't really go with the norm, where it's checking to the razor.
Right.
So that's why I called it in. The villain in the small blind leads out, just snap leads out for 50. So just throws 2 green chips out. And I'm next to act. So then my first question would be, what you're kind of doing in this situation to a donk lead on the board.
I'm raising all day long. I mean, it's a little bit similar to the same situation. I mean, it's a similar concept of what we just talked about with the last caller, and that one was more extreme, right? Where that someone doesn't have ace king on queen jack 10, right? When they don't 3-bet.
Exactly.
But here, like, you don't see people lead out with sets here out of the small blind to the point.
I didn't think so.
I mean, this is like I don't see this often, but I do remember like back in the golden days of 510 at Commerce when, I played probably 4,000 hours over between maybe 2009 to 2011 when I was really, really playing like full-time live before I started going to China. Like I would see this and I would raise people with like, if I had any hint of a draw here, like ace 4, ace 5, queen jack of spades, it's just like they can't. There's so many good cards. Like this is like what I like to call like the A plus like texture boards dynamic in the sense that, and also too, this is the same. These are the same boards that I've always basically have used these kind of crush live poker techniques, which is like attacking the field better, which means if the preflop raiser checks to somebody who called in the field, they bet, you can just raise the guy, attacking limp pots, and raising a donk lead as the preflop raiser. It's all the same type of board, which is a board that is somewhat dynamic where top pair on the flop is just not going to be a strong hand by the river. I mean, there's just going to be a run out here most of the time where 8-7 is just not a strong hand. Also, like, even if for some reason it comes brick low, you have all the overpairs. So, if I'm raising quite a few of those hands against a small blind lead, I'm certainly going to raise king 10 of clubs for sure.
Okay, yeah. So I was going back and forth between calling and raising. I kind of glanced to the button, and he was just not interested at all in the hand. So I figured, because I would hate to raise and have the button come over top of me. But I raised to $130.
You raised to
So
100. You raised to
yeah,
$130.
he donk leads 50. I raised to 130. So not a huge raise, but um,
Mm-hmm.
to 130, the button quickly folds and the small blind, the villain calls.
Yeah, I might make it like 175. I mean, I'd have to you have to kind of figure out stack sizes because if you make it 130, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. Like, you can basically make a pot size bet on the, well, if you make it 130 and he makes the call, I just don't know if you have the immediate fold equity here. Like, I don't know if any hand is going to fold here right away when you
Yeah,
basically only
I didn't
make it
think so.
130. So that's why I might make it like 175. Sometimes I talk about like putting the fear in God in them early on that they're going to face these larger bets later on.
Hmm.
If you made it 175 and he called, you put 350 in, and the pot would be like 410, and you'd have like 600 left in your stack. You could bet maybe I can see it's kind of tricky, right? Because if you bet 300, you don't leave yourself. So you could sort of go
Yeah,
for
anything on the river.
a little bit of a smaller raise, I guess, here to maybe 150, and then if you want to go three barrels, you have to figure out where you're going to have basically enough money. You have to leave yourself with enough money at the end, right, on the river if you want to bluff, or
Yeah,
you just make
exactly.
a huge bet on the turn, and then once he calls, you just sort of like give up. Like, for example, it really depends on what the turn card is. Because if the turn card is like a card that doesn't change the eight, I might not go for a huge bet. But if it is like a king well, I guess it wouldn't be king. You wouldn't need to do that with a king. But if it was like a queen or an ace, you might just go large and then just give up at the end when he calls. But if it's sort of a small card, like say that turns a six, you might want to go smaller to leave yourself with a triple barrel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense. Okay.
so we'll go to the turn. He makes the call.
Yeah, so he makes the call. The turn is the Queen of Hearts.
So, for example, here I would probably bet on the larger side, I would say. And then that should get him to fold out everything. And
Okay.
I don't really see you making a smaller bet here and then jamming river being a play where better on this card versus just betting like pot and then just basically giving up. Like I said, whereas if it was a small card, I might bet enough to leave myself with a shove at the river because nothing's really going to change across here all that much off of this queen. So the pot's about what 320. So what happens here?
Yeah, so the turn's Queen of Hearts, and like I said, the hand's a little weird. He snap leads out for $150. So I'm just kind of wondering here what you
Oh,
would
that's
put
really weird.
his range on. He's a tighter player. He's up five or six
He's a
hundred on the
tighter
session.
player.
He's a tighter. He's not playing like 60% of hands, 50% of hands. He's playing a tighter range pre-flop. Doesn't mean that he's not getting out of line or overvaluing hands or
Yeah.
doing anything out of the ordinary. But he wasn't limp calling 60, 70% of hands like I see some people.
Right.
So he was on the tighter side pre-flop,
Hmm.
but I actually don't have too much history with him. I don't know if he is a complete spaz or not. But I mean, for me, I just didn't.
Yeah,
I was
that's a really
completely
weird one.
confused.
It's really weird because it's like, I mean, some could say, well, why don't you just jam? Because it's kind of weird for the small blind to just come out and lead. It's almost like he really shouldn't have any two pair though. I mean, that kind of line is a play where somebody
Yeah.
waits for a safe card and then they lead, they flop two pair. But there's really no two pair that he should have here all that much. So it's kind of bizarre. I don't really know what he has, but with you having the clubs here, I think that raising would probably be kind of a spew. I don't know if he's going to bet fold all that much. It feels to me like just from a live sense that I might call and take my equity here. He's betting
Yeah, a lot of the time,
150 into 320, right?
yeah, he's betting about half pot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this, but sometimes people will lead with huge draws like straight draw, flush draw, gut shot, flush draw, nut flush draw, and I guess this could be a potential hand he could have where he's leading flop and now leading again on the turn. Because I mean, I at first I thought he had nines or tens that he flatted me in the big blind, and he gets an 8 high flop, so he leads out with his pocket tens, basically to deny equity. But then when the queen comes and now he's leading out again, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, actually, I was going to say that he might have nines, tens. That would be the hand that those would be the hands that would make the most sense to me. But anyway, so you call?
Yep, I call on the queen of hearts. I call 150. And
So the pot's like
river is
460, something like that, right? 460?
yeah, I don't know the exact pot size.
Yeah.
I'd have to do the math.
Mm-hmm.
River's 8 of diamonds.
All right, so let me
draws.
right. So let me
Flush
just
draws miss.
replay the hand here. So 5-5, 800 effective. Hero raises in the hijack with king 10 of clubs to 20. Button calls. Villain in the small blind calls. The board comes out 8 of clubs, 3 of clubs, deuce of spades. Small blind leads for 50. Small blind leads for 50. Hero raises to 130. Button folds. Small blind calls. So the pot's like 320. Turns the queen of hearts. So it's 8-3 deuce queen. Now small blind leads for 150. And the hero calls. So now the pot's 460. And now the river is an 8. So it pairs top
8 of diamonds.
Wow, okay.
On the flop. Yep.
Yep. And now what happens?
And he snap checks over to me. Super quick check. Just right when the board comes, right when the river comes out, snap check over to me. And now I'm kind of in a spot where I don't really know what to do. It's a $600 pot. I have around $500 behind.
You're right. Sorry, I said
high.
Right. The pot is 620 because you guys put in 300 on the turn.
620.
So it's 620 on the river pot, and you've got about 500, and he snap checks here at the end. Man, I don't know. This just seems like. This seems. I just think that you're going to get called here by everything that has any type of showdown value. I know that it's kind of weird because like you might want to get some of the ace highs out. Another hand that he might have here is queen x of clubs, which goes bet flop.
Mm-hmm.
Bet flop. You raise him, call. For some reason, he just donk leads the turn, and you call. And now on the river here, he has an 8. Put it this way, I don't think he has an 8. And this is another.
Exactly.
And this is another thing that this is another thing that I actually like. That I've talked about before where people don't do it enough, not that I would ever play an 8 in this way, is that sometimes like, it's usually in limped pots or situations where you're in the blind and you somehow have weak trips because you got a free look at it, or something like that, and the boards really draw heavy. Because nobody ever checks the river with trips, you give somebody the green light to bluff a draw because like when you check in this spot, people just don't think you'll ever have an 8. Like right now, you don't think this guy has an 8, right?
Yeah, of course.
The issue here is like if you bet, I mean, maybe obviously if you're thinking player, maybe you would bet all in with aces or kings here when he checks because he's got the nuts. But it's one of these spots where you have to get into the psychology of a live player because nobody else would do that. If you move all in here, or if you bet 400 or 500, because everybody else in the player pool is just representing like an 8+, I think you're going to get picked off here by just any hand that has a pair. And the hand, I guess, that you're trying to bluff off here is ace high, right? You're trying to bluff ace high.
Yeah,
off
I mean,
of
there's
the
a
hand.
potential that I could actually be good with king high if he has some like 6-5 of clubs, 7-8 or not 7-8 of clubs, 7-9 of clubs, some kind of random flush draw that he was leading out.
I think that if
have jack 10 of clubs,
so some people in the chat are like, here's my take on this. If he has any hand that has showdown value, it's not going to get through. And some people are agreeing with me. Like, I don't think that 9s and 10s are going to fold if you shove here. If you bet 400 to 500, so. If you want to go down the track where you feel like you need to... But it's so strange, though, because why wouldn't he bluff this card if he has like ace-4 of clubs or ace-5 of clubs? What I was going to say is that I think that you might get the same amount done. You might get the same thing that you want done by betting smaller here, which is basically to get like an ace-high to fold. Like, for example, the pot's 620, you bet 200. Ace-4 and ace-5 of clubs probably just going to fold out. Whereas if you bet larger and jam... you're trying to get something else to fold out, and I just don't think it's going to fold out. So I would either bet very small or check behind here, is my feeling.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really tough spot, and bluffing in general at these stakes is not always profitable just because of the player types, and they feel like they have to see the hand after they put so much money in. They hate to be bluffed.
I'm just concerned.
So
I'm just really
going back and forth.
I'm just really concerned about the fact that he's checked this river, because it seems to me like against that somebody would continue with the bluff here. Like if they had some hand that didn't have showdown.
I thought that he had a one pair hand,
Uh-huh.
and I don't put him on an 8 anymore once he bets the turn, and I definitely don't put him on an 8 when he checks the river. And so I put him on a one pair hand, so I don't, or even ace high flush draws, which I'm losing to as well.
So what did you do?
So I couldn't help myself. I had to jam all in. I feel like that was the only way for me to win. If I checked behind, no way I can win with king high. So I jam about 510, I think, or 520.
Now, before you tell me what happens, though, like I said, I think that if he's got queen X of clubs, or if he has those hands like 9s or 10s, he's not going to fold. It is bizarre, like the way that this hand is played out. And again, this is why you could make this bet here if you had, say, for example, ace queen. Say you raise the flop with like ace queen of spades, aces, kings, whatever it is, whatever, like ace queen plus. Yeah, you could make this play and jam, because I think you're going to get called by everything here, which is why I probably wouldn't make this shove. But what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I shove and he tanks forever, and I actually, thought I could get it through just with his body language and everything, and then he ended up talking himself into a call, and he shows queen 9 of clubs.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
queen high flush draw turns a queen.
Yeah, that's a hand that makes a lot of sense. The queen X of clubs.
Yeah. I guess I'm, on more of a nitty side, and I always think people have it, but I just don't think I could ever make that call with queen 9 of clubs. I don't know if you would. I know you wouldn't be in this situation with this lead call check raise or call raise lead turn, but
no.
When someone's jamming in on the river, I think it would be tough for most players to call there with one pair.
I don't know, man. I think you got to look at it the other way. I would call if I found I would call for the same reasons why I'm saying don't bluff and that you should jam with aces and kings. I would call here against a normal player in this player pool, because they would be polarized. Now, this combo kind of sucks, but if a player in this spot is only jamming an 8+, and I've got top pair, and I don't think he has many 8s, then why wouldn't I call? Do you see what I'm saying? That's why I'm trying to get you to work it the other way around, which is why, you should, that guy will own me. If I call here and this guy jams all in with ace queen, he'll own me, but I just don't see it. Like, people are going to be polarized in that spot quite a bit. So I think that I might call with any pair, to be perfectly. It's hard for me to put myself in this spot, right? Like in this, but here's something that would be more likely to happen. Say I called in the big blind heads up against like a hijack open, like with, I don't know, 7s or something, right? And the board came out, or let's say I called with like 9s, and it came out 8-3, and I checked and he bet and I called, and the turn was a queen, and I checked and he bet and I called, and the river was an 8.
Yeah.
And I checked and the guy jammed. Like, people don't really like take over pairs like that, or ace queen plus for a jam. See what I'm saying? So you really, you sort of have to think about it. So anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call-in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.